Good morning, and it's Friday the 13th today, but who cares? We're in God's hands as His children, so there's no need for knocking on wood or all that silly stuff people do for good luck. We don't buy that for sure. Today's Devo is entitled "God is Merciful," and it also, as the last couple of days have been, taken from at the attributes of God. That is from Dietrich, not Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I'm still in the old book we did for Advent. These are meditations on the Trinity by A.W. Tozer, and this is volume one from volume one of Attributes of God. God is merciful. And then the quote is from Second Chronicles chapter 5, verse 13. He is good. His love endures forever. That would be a wonderful verse for somebody to commit to memory who often doubts the grace and the mercy of God in their lives, as though they can't be forgiven, as though somehow their sin can outdo God's mercy and grace. It's just not possible. God is merciful. As I said about the other attributes of the deity, mercy is not something God has, but something God is. If mercy was something God had, conceivably, God might mislay it or use it up. It might become less or more. But since it is something that God is, then we must remember that it too is uncreated. The mercy of God did not come into being. The mercy of God always was in being. For mercy is what God is. And God is eternal. And God is infinite. There's been a lot of careless teaching that implies that the Old Testament is a book of severity and law, and the New Testament is a book of tenderness and grace. But do you know that while both the Old Testament and the New Testament declare the mercy of God, the word mercy appears in the Old Testament over 4 times more often than in the New? Did you know that? That's a bit hard to believe. That Old Testament picture of that mean God has the word mercy in it 4 times more often than in the New Testament. It's a bit hard to believe, he says, but it's true. It's true. This popular idea is a great error because the God of the Old Testament and the God of the New is one God. He did not change. He's the same God. And being the same God and not changing, he must therefore necessarily be the same in the old as he is in the new. He is immutable. And because he is perfect, cannot be added to. God's mercy was just as great in the Old Testament as it was and is in the New. I'm going to assume you're familiar with the 2 definitions of mercy and grace. Grace is being given something we don't deserve at all. Mercy is something being withheld from us that we totally deserve, and I'm talking about punishment. I'm talking about reaping what we've sown. Mercy withholds. Mercy does not send that punishment or deal it out or give us what we've got coming to us. Grace, on the meantime, is on the flip side of that. Grace says, well, you don't really deserve this, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. And since it comes from God, it comes in abundance. God is merciful. God is merciful. Sometimes I think when good things happen in our lives, we're more ready to chalk it up to grace. Oh, God's been gracious. God's shown me grace. Maybe if we stopped and analyzed the situation, we might more be ready to say, God showed me mercy there. God showed me mercy there. As I say those words, I have quick flashes of things in my own mind that's really what it was. His mercy that I'm still here. His grace that I'm able to serve. Blessings to you today. The prayer is, Father, thank you for showing me, a sinner, your mercy. May I be ever receptive to you and never take your mercy for granted. Amen. Blessings to you today. Rejoice in God's mercy shown toward you and that he is always merciful.